The night on Outpost Horizon 12 was quiet, almost too quiet for Mira Holt. She walked through the narrow metal corridors with a small cup of cold coffee in her hand. The outpost was far from Earth, placed on a lonely moon with no life and no danger. Most days were slow, calm, and almost boring. But tonight, the silence felt heavier. Even the machines sounded different, like they were breathing in the dark. Mira was the night security officer, and she trusted her instincts more than any scanner. She stopped near a window and looked outside at the empty sky. The stars were steady. The moon's surface was still. But something inside her chest felt tight, like a warning she could not explain. She continued her rounds, checking the doors, the generator rooms, and the comm center. Everything looked normal. But then the lights flickered once. Just once. It was quick, almost too quick to notice. Mira froze. The lights never flickered here. The power system was strong, and the backup generators were always on standby. She walked to the security console and checked the logs. There was nothing. No errors. No warnings. Yet her hands felt cold. Suddenly, the silent alarm blinked red. Mira stepped back slowly. That alarm was different from the normal attack alarms. This one could only be activated manually, and she had not touched it. No one else was awake in the security team. The outpost had a small night staff, and all of them were in different sections. Her heart struck harder. She pressed a control button, trying to deactivate the signal, but the system did not respond. It felt like someone, or something, was interfering with the controls. Before she could try again, the entire outpost vibrated. A deep rumble echoed through the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights dimmed, then brightened again. Mira rushed to the main window, and that was when she saw it. The sky outside was not empty anymore. 3 large alien warships appeared from the darkness, their metal bodies glowing red under the moonlight. They were sharp, jagged, and shaped like giant claws. Mira had seen pictures of Vector pirate ships before, but she never expected to see one this close. The Vector were known across some systems as brutal raiders who preferred weak targets. Human outposts were always considered low risk because Earth rarely responded fast. But tonight, Horizon 12 was their target. One of the ships fired a glowing beam toward the outpost. The shield barriers lit up, shaking under the impact. Mira grabbed her communicator and shouted into it. "All crew, wake up. This is not a drill. Vector ships in orbit." Her voice echoed through the sleeping station. Doors opened, footsteps thundered, and shouts filled the hallways. But the enemy attack was already starting. More beams hit the outpost, shaking the floor and knocking tools off the shelves. Mira rushed to the comm center, hoping to send a distress signal. The moment she entered, she could see sparks flying out of a console. Wires were smoking. Someone, or something, had hacked the system. She typed commands quickly, trying to restore connection with Earth. The screen flashed. System override. Communications jammed. She bit her lip, feeling anger rise. She tried one last manual override. A crackling sound came from the speaker, very faint. Izon, 12 under ATA, human life, need him. The signal was almost lost. But it was something. She pushed the button again and spoke as loudly as she could. "This is Horizon 12. We are under heavy attack. Vector ships in orbit." The lights went out completely. A moment later, red emergency lights switched on, painting the hallways in blood-colored shadows. She could hear explosions in the distance. The Vector had started boarding operations. Mira grabbed a small pulse pistol from the wall locker. Her hands shook, but her mind was clear. She was not a soldier, but she would not let her people die without fighting. Boot steps echoed in the hallway behind her. Her friend, Engineer Leo Guerin, ran toward her. His face was pale and covered in dust. "Mira, boarding pods just landed near Section 3. They're inside. How many people do we still have?" she asked. "I don't know. Half the team is trapped behind collapsed doors. The power grid is failing everywhere. Mira took a slow breath. There was no time to panic. We need to slow them down for as long as possible. The distress signal. Maybe someone heard us. Leo looked hopeless. Earth is far. Help won't come fast enough. Mira looked through a broken window at the alien ships. Maybe. But we won't make it easy for them. Alarms screamed again. This time it was a breach alert. The Vactor were breaking open the main cargo bay doors. The metal screamed like an animal. Mira and Leo ran toward the survivors gathering in the central hub. Some carried tools, some had old rifles, some had nothing at all but fear in their eyes. The ground shook again as the enemy forced their way inside. One of the younger crew members whispered, "Why are they attacking us? We have nothing." Mira looked at the sealed doors and answered quietly, "Because they think humans are weak." Outside, the Vactor commander watched the outpost in amusement. He believed this raid would be easy. He believed Earth would never find out. He did not know that Myra's broken signal had reached far, so far that something massive and powerful had already changed course. Humanity was coming. And the Vactor had no idea what was about to arrive. Far away, on Earth, the faint distress signal from Horizon 12 reached the command center. At first, the officers thought it was a weak transmission, barely understandable, but one word stood out: attack. That single word was enough to shift the calm of Earth's night into tension. Admiral Cale Vargas, the head of Earth Defense Command, leaned over the console. His eyes were sharp and focused. "Show me the source," he said. The screen displayed a small blue dot on a remote moon, almost lost among thousands of stars. Lieutenant Aaron Doss typed quickly. "Horizon 12, sir. Outpost is under attack. Comms are failing, but it's human. Looks like Vactor." Admiral Vargas straightened in his chair. The Vactor were ruthless pirates. They had struck small human colonies before, but never one this far. And Earth had never ignored an attack. "Prepare the fleet," Vargas ordered. "All units in orbit. Emergency jump. No human station dies alone." In the vast hangar, engineers ran toward sleek warships. The massive dreadnought Hercules 7 roared to life, its engines glowing blue, shaking the floor. Fighters scrambled from launch bays. Even the smaller stealth ships prepared, their cloaking fields humming quietly. Far to the east, the Japanese cruiser Kitsune jumped into the fleet formation, its engines slicing through the void. India's frigate Ashoka joined next, followed by Russia's torpedo ship Volgograd. The ships moved in perfect synchronization, decades of joint drills making them almost one being. Back at Horizon 12, Mira Holt and Leo Guerin led a small group of survivors through smoke-filled hallways. They set traps, barricaded doors, and hacked damaged consoles to slow the aliens. Every moment mattered. Every second bought meant more time for Earth's fleet to arrive. Mira whispered to Leo, "They think this is easy. They think we are weak. They are wrong." Leo nodded but could not hide the fear in his eyes. "How much longer can we hold?" "Long enough," Mira replied. Her eyes scanned the hallways. "We fight. We survive. And help is coming." Outside, Vactor ships had begun firing relentlessly at the outpost shields. The sound of energy blasts rattled the walls. The aliens were confident. They believed no human fleet would arrive in time. Meanwhile, far above Earth's atmosphere, the fleet jumped into the black of space. Engines flared. Jump drives hummed and cracked through the void. The veterans of the fleet knew what they were about to face. The Vactor had no idea that their easy target was about to trigger humanity's full response. In the bridge of Hercules 7, Captain Lena Voss checked her crew. "Target the outpost. Be ready for resistance. And remember, every second counts." The first jump took them deep into space, closing the distance to Horizon 12 faster than anyone expected. Scouts were sent ahead to detect Vactor movement. Sensors picked up their jagged ships orbiting the moon, firing relentlessly. The Vactor were confident, firing blindly at the shields, not noticing the massive fleet approaching. Inside Horizon 12, Myra's group set one final trap. Old crates filled with energy cells lined the corridor. If the aliens advanced too quickly, they would trigger the explosion. Mira paused, hand on the detonator. "Ready," she whispered. "Ready," Leo said, gripping his pulse rifle. The aliens breached the corridor. Mira pressed the detonator. A blinding light, a thunderous boom, and the hall shook violently. Smoke filled the area, cutting visibility. Some Vactor were thrown back, stunned. Others screamed in confusion. This is just the beginning, Mira thought. She led her team forward, deeper into the outpost, toward the communications hub. If they could restore even a fraction of the signal, Earth's fleet could target the invaders precisely. And Earth was listening. Sensors aboard Hercules, 7 picked up faint distress pulses. Captain Voss frowned. "They are alive. Signal is weak, but it's there. Prepare for immediate strike. We are close." The fleet accelerated. Weapons systems came online. Railguns hummed, missile bays opened, and targeting computers locked onto the Vactor ships. The aliens, still confident, had no idea how fast humanity's wrath could reach them. Back at the outpost, Mira paused at a broken window. She looked at the sky, imagining the ships that would arrive. She whispered to herself, "Hold on, just a little longer." Leo peeked over her shoulder. "Do you really think they can make it in time?" Myra's jaw tightened. "They will. Humans never leave their own behind. Not now. Not ever." The sound of engines, faint but growing louder, reached her ears. Not the outpost engines. Something massive, something powerful. The aliens outside could not hear it. But humans could. And Mira knew, deep down, that this was the moment the Vactor had underestimated. Humanity was coming, faster and stronger than anyone in the galaxy expected. The night was no longer quiet. The battle for Horizon 12 was about to change everything. The Vactor forces moved through Horizon 12 like a dark tide. Their armor was jagged, their weapons crackling with deadly energy. Mira and her small group of survivors ran through the hallways, leading them into traps and barricades. Every corner was a chance to slow the invaders, every door a chance to take back a few precious seconds. The outpost shook as another alien beam slammed into the side of the main hub. Sparks flew, the lights flickered red and orange, and smoke filled the room. Mira covered her mouth and pushed Leo ahead, leading a small team toward the secondary control room. "We can't stop them all," Leo shouted over the roar of explosions. "There are too many." Mira shook her head, her face pale but determined. "We don't need to stop them all. Just long enough. Earth is coming. That's all we need." They ran through a narrow maintenance corridor, ducking under broken pipes and fallen debris. A young technician, barely 17, stumbled and fell. Mira turned back and grabbed his arm, pulling him to his feet. "Stay close," she whispered. "We move fast, or we die slow." The Vactor were relentless. They cut through metal doors as if they were paper, their claws and energy weapons leaving deep marks in the walls. A small group of aliens burst into a storage room where survivors had hidden. Mira pressed a button, and an energy barricade lit up, trapping the aliens inside for a few seconds. Screams echoed as sparks flew. The barricade held, but just barely. Mira knew they could not fight forever. Their ammunition was limited, their weapons were basic, and their numbers were tiny compared to the aliens. But determination burned in her chest. Humans did not give up. They never had. In the communications hub, Mira saw the console flicker. The main transmitter was damaged, but maybe, just maybe, she could boost a signal. She grabbed the nearest power cell and started wiring it to the transmitter manually. Sparks flew, and smoke filled the small room. Leo ran beside her. "Do you really think it will work?" "It has to," Mira replied, her voice steady even as her hands shook. If we fail, no one hears us. If we succeed, Earth knows exactly where we are. Outside, the Vector commander laughed. He had expected to find an easy target. Humans trapped, frightened, and weak. But now, these humans were fighting back. Small explosions in the corridors were slowing his forces. One of his boarding pods was destroyed by a clever trap in the cargo bay. He frowned. These humans are not like the others, he muttered. Send more reinforcements. Crush them completely. But it was too late. The faint signals Mira had sent earlier reached deep into space. Hercules, 7 and the other ships of Earth's fleet were closing fast. Inside the outpost, Mira could feel it. Something changed. The vibrations in the walls were different. Not the attack beams, not the shudder of the moon under fire, but a steady pulse from far away. A presence. A power. The survivors gathered around her as she tried to stabilize the transmitter. Almost there, she muttered. Just a little more. One of the young technicians asked nervously, "Do you think they will come?" Earth. Mira looked at the stars outside the broken windows. "They always do," she said softly. "We are never alone." The Vector were advancing through the central corridor. Mira and Leo set one last trap, wiring the floor with energy charges. They waited as the aliens stepped inside, their claws clicking on the metal. Mira pressed the detonator. The floor erupted in a bright flash. The corridor shook violently. Aliens were thrown into the walls, some screaming, some unconscious. The survivors ran past, hearts pounding, lungs burning, toward the communications hub. Mira finally managed to boost the transmitter. A steady signal pulsed out, weak but readable. Earth would hear them now. In the sky above the outpost, sensors aboard the approaching human fleet detected the signal. Captain Lena Voss on Hercules, 7 smiled grimly. "They're alive. Signal is clear. Lock weapons. Engage." The Vector ships above Horizon 12 scanned the horizon, expecting small rescue shuttles. They did not see the massive silhouettes appearing in the distance. Dozens of human warships, engines glowing, weapons ready. The night sky was about to be torn apart by firepower they had never imagined. Back inside the outpost, Mira looked at the survivors, exhausted but alive. "Hold on," she whispered. "Help is here. We just need to survive a little longer." The outpost shook again as the aliens fired more beams. Metal twisted, sparks flew, and alarms screamed. But the humans were ready. Every delay, every trap, every clever move mattered now. They were not just fighting to survive, they were buying time for the full wrath of humanity to arrive. Myra's hands tightened on her pistol. She looked at Leo, at the young technicians, and at the small group of survivors. "Remember this moment," she said. "Tonight, we show them humans are not easy prey." Outside, the first human ships appeared on the horizon. Blue fire from engines cut through the dark void. The Vector commander stared in disbelief. His confident smile vanished. The humans had arrived. And the battle for Horizon 12 was only beginning. The first signs appeared as tiny glimmers on the horizon of space. At first, the Vector thought it was just debris, maybe minor satellites. But the glimmers grew larger, moving faster than anything they had ever seen. Beams of blue light streaked through the darkness, engines roaring silently in vacuum, the void itself trembling under the sheer size of the approaching fleet. The Vector commander's eyes narrowed. "Impossible," he hissed. "These are human warships, not small shuttles. Not scouts. Full battleships. How?" It was too late. The massive human dreadnought Hercules, 7 appeared first, its hull reflecting faint starlight. Behind it, dozens of smaller ships formed perfect formations, like a single living organism. Fighters swarmed around the bigger ships, their weapon systems humming and glowing. The Vector had never seen humans fight with such coordination, such speed, such precision. Inside Horizon 12, Mira Holt and her group looked out the broken windows. Look, she whispered. The survivors froze, eyes wide as the first human ship opened fire. A Vactor cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash of light, its metal frame torn apart by concentrated railgun fire. Leo's jaw dropped. They're here. All of them. The outpost shook as another beam from above hit the hull, but this time, it was Vactor fire hitting each other. The human fleet had already started engaging the enemy, and the aliens were caught completely off guard. Prepare the weapons, Captain Lena Voss's voice echoed through Hercules 7. Target the nearest cruisers. Neutralize them before they can react. Focus fire. No mistakes. The fleet moved like clockwork. Railguns fired in sequence, missiles streaked through space, and energy cannons burned paths of destruction through the Vactor lines. One cruiser, massive and jagged, tried to escape, but a human torpedo ship predicted its path and struck precisely, blowing it into pieces. Back inside Horizon 12, Mira felt a surge of hope. Her small group had held out long enough. Every trap, every barricade, every moment of courage had mattered. The aliens had underestimated humans, and now they were paying the price. The Vactor commander barked orders, but chaos had already set in. His ships twisted and turned, trying to regroup, but the human fleet was faster, smarter, and perfectly coordinated. Fighters darted between massive ships, disabling weapons, cutting engines, and destroying boarding pods. One Vactor officer yelled, "This is not possible. They are too fast. They're numbers. They are humans," the commander growled. "Do not forget. Kill them all." But even he knew it was no longer a raid. It was a disaster. The aliens had expected weak humans, trapped and easy to destroy. Now, they were being annihilated. Inside the outpost, Mira and Leo led survivors to a safer section, still barricading doors and setting traps. They were exhausted, but determination burned brighter than fear. Mira whispered, "This is why they should never underestimate humans." Outside, the battle escalated. One by one, Vactor ships exploded. The fleet's firepower was precise, deadly, unstoppable. Smaller fighters intercepted enemy boarding pods before they could reach Horizon 12. Heavy cruisers crushed larger vessels with well-aimed volleys. The sky around the outpost was ablaze with fire, light, and energy beams. A young technician in the outpost shouted, "They're winning. Look. The aliens are falling." Mira nodded, but she didn't relax. "Not yet," she said. "The battle is far from over. But we are still alive. That is what matters now." From the perspective of the Vactor commander, the nightmare was clear. His carefully planned attack had failed. The humans had not only defended the outpost, they had called the full force of Earth's wrath. And the fleet was unlike anything he had imagined. Every strategy he had relied on failed against their coordination and precision. "Retreat!" he screamed into the comms, but some of his ships were already too damaged to escape. One cruiser was ripped apart mid-jump. Another lost engines entirely and drifted helplessly toward the moon. Panic spread through his fleet. Inside Horizon 12, Mira could hear the distant booms through the walls, the shaking of the floor as alien ships exploded in orbit. Survivors hugged each other, crying from fear and relief. Myra's eyes glistened, but she stayed focused. "Stay alert. They may still try something," she said. But deep down, she allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had arrived, and the Vactor had learned a lesson they would never forget. Outpost Horizon 12 was no longer just a lonely station in the void. It was a symbol. Humans would not be crushed quietly. Above the moon, the human fleet pressed the attack. The Vactor ships tried to regroup, but every movement was anticipated. It was as if the humans were everywhere at once, striking with deadly precision, leaving nothing for chance. The first real wave of relief hit the survivors when a Hercules 7 fighter flew past the outpost window, signaling that the immediate danger outside had diminished. Mira turned to the group. "We survived," she said softly. "And they know now, no human station is weak. No human lives are left unprotected." In the vast emptiness of space, the Vactor commander stared at the destruction, silence heavy in his voice. "We underestimated them," he said. The words tasted bitter. Too late, he understood the truth. Humans were nothing like they expected. And that truth would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The battle raged across Horizon 12 and the surrounding space. Outside, human warships carved through the Vactor fleet like knives through fabric. Inside, Mira Holt and her group fought with every ounce of strength they had. Every corridor was a battlefield. Every door, a line in the war they did not choose but could not escape. Mira pressed her back against a wall, scanning the hallway ahead. Sparks flew from broken panels, smoke swirled in thick clouds, and distant explosions shook the floor. A Vactor warrior stepped into the corridor, claws raised, teeth glinting under the red emergency lights. Mira fired her pulse pistol. The beam hit its chest, and the alien stumbled back, screeching. "Keep moving," she shouted to the survivors. "We can't stop now." Leo Garin led a small group to block another hallway with energy barriers salvaged from the outpost. They set up traps with makeshift explosives, creating choke points for the aliens. Every trap that went off slowed the invaders, giving them precious seconds and keeping them alive. One of the young technicians, barely old enough to hold a weapon properly, fired a laser rifle at an alien. It hit, and the Vactor fell to the floor with a shriek. He looked terrified but determined. Mira gave him a nod. "Good shot," she said. "We fight because we must. That is all." The aliens, frustrated by their slow progress, began to move more aggressively. They tore through walls, hacked doors with energy blades, and shouted commands to each other in their harsh language. But the humans did not panic. They had no choice but to adapt and fight. Mira led the survivors to the control room, hoping to maintain what little communication was still active. She tapped the console, sending updates to the fleet above. "Horizon 12 is holding. We are alive, but they are relentless. Prepare to support." The Vactor commander, watching from orbit, cursed under his breath. "These humans, they are fighting like demons," he growled. He could not understand it. Every attack, every resistance, every trap was slowing his conquest. His confidence shattered. In space, Hercules 7 fired again. A Vactor cruiser exploded in brilliant blue fire, tearing a hole through the darkness. Missiles streaked past other ships, striking boarding pods before they could reach the outpost. The fleet's coordination was flawless. The aliens had expected disorganized humans, but instead, they faced perfect timing and precision. Back inside Horizon 12, Mira and Leo fought side by side. They moved through hallways filled with smoke and debris, defending civilians, guiding them towards safer sections of the station. The survivors, armed with whatever weapons they could grab, followed her lead. Together, they became more than just miners and technicians. They became warriors defending their home. A Vactor soldier lunged at Mira from behind a pillar. She spun, firing her pistol. The alien screamed and collapsed. She didn't pause. There was no time. More invaders were coming. She kept moving, pushing toward the main control hub, knowing that every second counted. "Look!" Leo shouted. Outside the window, human fighters darted between Vactor ships, tearing them apart. Explosions lit up the void, reflecting in the broken glass of the outpost. The aliens were panicked now. Their formations were shattered. Their morale was crumbling. Mira allowed herself a small smile. She whispered, "They thought this would be easy. They were wrong. Humans never give up." The Vactor commander tried to regroup, issuing frantic orders. But the fleet was too fast, too strong. One cruiser tried to escape, but a human torpedo ship anticipated its movement and fired. The cruiser erupted in fire, spinning helplessly toward the moon below. Inside the outpost, Mira and her team set another trap in the main corridor. This time, it was a line of energy charges connected to the last functional console. The first alien to step on it triggered a chain reaction. A bright flash of light and a wave of heat through the other's back. Smoke and debris filled the hallway, giving the humans a temporary advantage. Mira grabbed the nearest survivor and whispered, "Run! We move fast. We survive together." They ran through the corridors, dodging falling beams, avoiding sparks, and pushing forward through smoke and chaos. Every step brought them closer to safety, but also closer to the front lines where the human fleet was systematically crushing the Vector. The alien commander finally realized the truth. This was not a raid. This was annihilation. His plan had failed. His pride shattered. And the humans, small, fragile, but relentless, were winning. Mira paused at the main window. The fleet was overwhelming the enemy. One by one, Vector ships exploded, their pieces scattering across the void. The survivors stared in awe and relief. Myra's heart pounded, but she stayed vigilant. "We fight because we must," she said again, almost to herself. "Tonight, we show them humans are not weak. We are unstoppable when we fight together." The first real wave of victory swept through Horizon 12. The survivors, exhausted but alive, understood one truth. The Vector had underestimated humans in every way. They had assumed weakness. They had assumed fear. They had assumed obedience. But humans had defied every expectation. And the battle for Horizon 12 was proof humanity was not to be taken lightly. The Vector fleet was in ruins. Pieces of their ships drifted silently in the void, glowing faintly from lingering energy fires. The aliens who had survived scrambled in panic, trying to regroup, but every path was blocked. The human fleet moved like a single unstoppable wave, precise and deadly. Hercules, 7 led the assault, firing massive railguns that cut through cruisers like they were paper. Fighters darted around, intercepting escape pods and boarding vessels. One by one, the Vector ships fell, leaving only scattered debris behind. In orbit above Horizon 12, Mira Holt and the survivors watched through the broken windows. Exhaustion and relief mixed on their faces. The station had survived, and the aliens had been shattered. Myra's pulse raced, not just from fear, but from pride. Humanity had defended its own. Humanity had won. Leo Garin leaned against the wall, wiping sweat and soot from his brow. They're done," he said. "All of them, gone?" Mira nodded slowly. "Almost. Some escaped, but their fleet is broken. They will think twice before attacking humans again." In Earth's command center, Admiral Cale Vargas addressed the galaxy. The message was calm, measured, but carried an unmistakable weight of power. "Vector and all species of the galaxy," he said. "You have seen what happens when you attack humanity. One outpost is protected by the full force of Earth. If you threaten one human life, you fight all humans. Let this be a warning. We are patient. We are peaceful. But we are unstoppable when provoked." Across the galaxy, screens flickered as the message was broadcast. Governments, empires, and pirate fleets paused, stunned. Some whispered in fear. Others began to rethink their plans. Humanity had not only survived but had shown strength no one had imagined. Back at Horizon 12, Mira led her group through the damaged corridors. Survivors hugged each other, tears streaming, some laughing quietly, others silent with shock. Every life mattered, and every moment had been a test of courage. Mira looked at the sky beyond the broken windows. The human fleet was retreating slowly, leaving behind a trail of blue fire and destruction. Their mission was complete. The outpost was safe. Humanity had made a statement. Leo broke the silence. Do you think they will come back?" Mira shook her head. "Maybe. Some will try. But they will never underestimate us again. We showed them what humans are capable of." In orbit, Captain Lena Voss of Hercules, 7 gave one last command. "All ships, prepare to return to base. We are leaving a message behind. Humanity is awake. Humanity is united." The Vector commander, surviving on a small escape pod, drifted in silence. His fleet was destroyed. His pride shattered. He would carry the warning back to his species, but it would not be enough. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's wrath, and fear would follow. Inside the outpost, Mira gathered the survivors. Tonight, we fought for our lives. Tonight, we made history. Never forget this. Humans protect their own. Always. No matter the cost. The young technician, still holding his laser rifle, whispered, We actually did it. Yes, Mira said softly. And the galaxy knows it now. They know Earth is not a target. They know we are ready. The night on Horizon 12 was quiet again, but it was different from before. Silence no longer meant safety or boredom. It meant survival. It meant victory. And it carried a warning. Across the galaxy, alien species would whisper the story of Horizon 12 for generations. Humans had been attacked, cornered, and underestimated, and they had emerged stronger than ever. Their patience was a weapon, their courage a shield, and their response a storm no one could ignore. Mira Holt stood at the window, looking at the stars. The battle was over, but the war for respect had only begun. Humanity had proven one undeniable truth. They were not to be trifled with. And from this day forward, every species would remember the night Earth's wrath fell on the Vector. The survivors began clearing debris, repairing what they could. The outpost had scars, but it had survived. And in those scars lay a story of bravery, of resistance, and of hope. Humanity had stood together and emerged victorious. The message was clear, not just to the Vector, but to every being in the galaxy. Humanity would fight for itself. Humanity would fight for each other. Humanity would never back down. And Earth would never forgive an attack on its own. The stars above Horizon 12 were calm once more. Smoke and debris from the battle slowly drifted into the void. The outpost, battered but standing, was quiet except for the hum of emergency systems and the soft footsteps of survivors moving through the corridors. Mira Holt walked slowly down the hall, her pulse pistol still at her side. She looked at the faces of the survivors, engineers, technicians, miners, and a few soldiers who had arrived late. Each one bore the marks of fear, exhaustion, and determination. They had survived something no human on this remote moon had thought possible. Leo Garin approached, carrying a small crate of supplies. The fleet is gone, he said softly. They're heading back to Earth. Will they come again? Mira shook her head. Maybe someday. But they will never forget tonight. Not the Vector, not anyone else in the galaxy. Humanity has made its mark. Outside the outpost, the Vector commander drifted in his tiny escape pod, broken and humiliated. He would tell his people about what had happened. But his story would not be one of victory. It would be a warning. And that warning would spread across the stars, a tale of humans who refused to die quietly. Back inside, Mira gathered the survivors in the main hall. She wanted them to understand what they had achieved. Tonight, we fought not just for ourselves, she said, her voice steady, echoing slightly in the damaged room. We fought for every human life, for every outpost, for Earth itself. And we won. Humanity is not weak. Humanity never surrenders. And the galaxy has seen that now. A young technician looked around nervously. Do you think other species will attack us again? Myra's eyes narrowed, thinking of the vastness of space and the countless alien empires beyond. Some will try. Some will always underestimate us. But they will remember what happens when they do. And they will hesitate. That hesitation gives us power. That hesitation gives us time to prepare. Repair teams moved through the corridors, welding broken panels, restoring power, and clearing debris. The survivors worked together, not as miners or engineers anymore, but as humans who had faced impossible odds and survived. Every repaired wall, every fixed console was a symbol of resilience. From orbit, Hercules, 7, and the other human warships began a slow withdrawal. Captain Lena Voss looked down at the moon, at the battered outpost that had held against impossible odds. Horizon 12 stands, she said quietly. And the galaxy will remember it. As the fleet vanished into the blackness, a ripple of fear spread through alien communications networks. Across distant systems, stories of the human response reached ears that had once laughed at the idea of a simple outpost resisting. Now, every empire, every fleet, every pirate group understood one truth: humans were patient, but lethal when provoked. Inside Horizon 12, Mira walked to the observation window, staring at the stars that had once felt so distant, so empty. The battle had ended, but the war for respect, for survival, for recognition, had only begun. Humanity had sent a message. The galaxy had heard it. Leo came beside her. "Do you think we'll ever be safe?" Mira smiled faintly, though her eyes were still sharp with vigilance. "Safe? No. But respected? Yes. And that makes all the difference. The galaxy will think twice before attacking humans again. That is what matters." The survivors began to share stories, quietly laughing, sometimes crying, sometimes just breathing. They had faced fear, death, and destruction, and they had endured. Mira listened to them, knowing that their courage would be remembered long after Horizon 12 was repaired. From deep within Earth's command, new orders were being drafted. Every outpost, every colony, every fleet would be reinforced. Lessons from Horizon 12 would shape strategy for decades. Humanity would be ready. Humanity would protect its own. Humanity would never be weak again. And somewhere in the far reaches of the galaxy, alien commanders whispered about the humans who had fought back, who had called their fleets and destroyed invaders, who had proven that patience was not weakness and restraint was not surrender. Fear began to grow where arrogance once ruled. Mira stood alone for a moment, staring out at the empty sky. She thought of those who had fallen, of those who had survived, and of the humans who would never stop protecting their own. "We are ready," she whispered. "The galaxy will see us again, and they will remember." The outpost hummed with life once more. Emergency lights gave way to regular illumination. Machines repaired themselves, alarms were silenced, and the survivors began rebuilding their home. Horizon 12 had survived. Humanity had survived. And from now on, the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The night was quiet, but it carried a new meaning. It was not just survival, it was victory, warning, and a promise. Humanity had risen. Humanity had fought. And humanity would continue to rise, no matter what the stars held. The battle was over. The war had just begun.